Welcome to ArchiCraft, a bit of architect, your go-to podcast for modern software and solution architecture, enterprise strategies, and AI-powered engineering. Each episode is AI narrated, based on the original blog content by Dmytro Golodiuk at Dmytro.com.
You're listening to the 8th episode of the podcast. This episode is titled 10 Mistakes Undermining Solution Architects. In this episode, we examine prevalent mistakes made by solution architects and offer detailed insights, strategies, and examples to navigate these challenges effectively. Let's get started.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really cutting through the noise to get you well informed on something absolutely critical if you're steering tech direction. Whether you're a senior architect, a CIO, maybe a CTO, we are diving deep into a really powerful post by Dmytro Golodiuk, Dima, as he's often known. It's called Architectural Red Flags, 10 Mistakes Undermining Solution Architects. So our mission today, let's unpack Dima's insights into these common pitfalls that solution architects, sometimes fall into. And this isn't just about, listing problems. It's about getting into the why behind these red flags, how they can quietly undermine solutions, even whole organizations. We'll look at strategies, real examples to help you navigate this stuff. Because what Dima does so well is he doesn't just talk theory. He gives specific scenarios that make it all very real. Let's get into it. So Dima kicks off with a pretty common one. Architects applying very specialized knowledge too broadly. He highlights how folks moving from, say, a deep DBA role or maybe network engineering can end up looking at big, complex problems through a, surprisingly narrow lens.
Yeah, and it's fascinating, isn't it? Because it really limits that holistic view. Architecture isn't just one domain. It's about working across a whole spectrum of tech, collaborating with all sorts of specialists. Dima gives this example, right? An SA with a long DBA background. When they face a complex integration problem, their first instinct, their default, is database-centric solutions.
Like pushing for replication or maybe complex stored procs.
Exactly. Even when maybe, other technologies, microservices, and integration platform might be a much better fit architecturally. That kind of rigid thinking, it leads to suboptimal results. And it can miss the bigger picture, things like interoperability, user experience, or just overall system performance.
So for a CIO or CTO listening, this isn't just database tunnel vision. It sounds like it could mean projects getting stuck, or worse, building solutions with built-in weaknesses from day one. What's the strategic fix here? How do you break out of that?
Well, Dima advises really embracing a more open-minded approach. It's about deliberately incorporating a broader range of tech and methods. From a leadership view, maybe it's about fostering cross-pollination, encouraging architects to step outside their comfort zones.
Like rotations or maybe diverse review boards?
Exactly. Force them to justify choices beyond just their deep specialty. Ensure that strategy is truly comprehensive.
Okay, so once an architect broadens that perspective, Dima's next point is about how they actually use the tools and platforms available. He says understanding platforms, Dynamics 365, Salesforce, OpenText, you name it, is critical. But inexperienced architects might misuse them, either ignoring what they're for or worse, building custom stuff that the platform already does.
Oh, absolutely. And connecting this to the bigger picture, it's not just about knowing a platform exists. It's really digging into its complexities, its inner workings. Dima's example with Dynamics 365 is spot on. Architects who don't know the out-of-the-box features might build custom things that are, completely redundant.
Wasted effort, basically.
Yeah, huge waste. But it's more than just duplication. Think about the technical debt that piles up.
Right. For a CTO, that means higher maintenance costs.
Right.
A brittle system that breaks with updates.
Precisely. And it really limits future innovation. Another key thing Dima flags is ignoring the platform's built-in security model. The roles, teams, field-level security, and dynamics. If architects don't know these, they might build custom redundant security.
Creating vulnerabilities and just messy systems.
Exactly, and audit nightmares. Or ignoring best practices for customization that leads to systems that are a nightmare to maintain, upgrade, troubleshoot.
Like building custom entities that just copy existing ones.
Yeah, data redundancy, complexity, it hits agility, total cost of ownership. It's a big deal.
Okay, so beyond the tech specifics, Dima then gets into some anti-patterns around effectiveness, things that undermine how architects actually work. He calls out inefficient meetings first, the ones huge gatherings, hardly anyone really contributing.
Yes. He also mentions a fear of responsibility, like when ownership is shared but not clear, leads to confusion, nobody's really accountable, and then there's not delegating. Architects trying to do it all themselves, which just bottlenecks everything and doesn't empower the team.
Yeah, that makes sense. But here's where it got really interesting for me. Dima calls the generic, unified, or universal architectural masterpiece the most ineffective decision. He basically says it's an inefficient solution that doesn't solve real problems.
Yeah.
Now, I get the potential pitfalls, but are there times when a big company needs a robust general platform? How do you tell the difference between a flawed masterpiece and a genuinely useful enterprise solution?
That's a fantastic question, and yeah, the nuance is key here. Dima's example is an architect building a one-size-fits-all CMS for a big corporation, but they didn't consider the specific needs of marketing versus sales versus finance. They're all different. So while the architect might be proud of this universal thing, Dima argues it just doesn't work in practice. You end up with something too complex for simple tasks or not powerful enough for complex ones.
The single wrench trying to fit every bolt.
Exactly, versus a proper toolbox. Now, true enterprise platforms are universal in a sense, but they're built differently. They're designed for extensibility, for configuration. They allow tailored solutions on top of a common core. They're almost like products themselves, not just a single design. Dima hints he might even write more on platform architecting later.
Ah, okay. That distinction is crucial. All right, moving on. Dima brings up another critical issue, valuing seniority over actual relevant expertise. He argues that putting architects without the right knowledge in key roles leads to, well, bad solutions and wasted money.
Oh, it's a huge risk, especially how fast IT changes, right?
Yeah.
Assuming years served equals mastery of the latest tech, that's not always safe. Dima gives an example. A senior SA on a project, experienced generally, but they just don't deeply understand the specific tech involved in that project.
So they struggle to give good, practical advice.
Exactly. They might have been amazing 5 years ago, but if they haven't kept up, their guidance can actually be a liability.
And for a CIO, that means delays, budget issues, opportunity costs.
Huge opportunity cost. It stifles innovation because the architectural direction isn't current or, truly relevant.
Which leads perfectly into Dima's next red flag, lack of continuous learning. In a world changing this fast, he warns architects who get complacent, who stop learning about new tech. They risk becoming obsolete.
It seems straightforward, but it's vital.
For a CIO, an architect getting stale means the whole organization risks losing its edge, doesn't it?
Absolutely. If your architects aren't learning, they can't recommend or implement cutting-edge solutions. Simple as that. Directly limits your ability to innovate, to compete. If they aren't exploring AI or thinking about quantum's impact or new cloud patterns, your company will fall behind.
So leaders need to actively foster that learning culture.
Definitely. Provide training resources, give them space to experiment. Expertise isn't a one-time thing, it's constantly evolving.
Okay, Dima then shifts focus a bit, emphasizing communication and collaboration as like the absolute cornerstones of good architecture. If communication breaks down, he says, you get misunderstandings, delays, project failures. But how does one communication slip actually snowball into bigger problems?
Well, it often starts small, right?
Yeah.
Dima gives an example. An architect doesn't clearly communicate some key design decisions to the dev team. Maybe they just threw a diagram over the wall.
Assuming they just get it.
Right. So the team implements features, but they deviate from the intended architecture, maybe fundamentally. The result, it's not just rework, it's wasted time, money, blown timelines, and a final product that might not even meet the business need anymore.
Ouch. For a CTO, that's got to erode trust in the architects.
Totally. And potentially means re-architecting midstream. Devastating for morale and budget. So yeah, clear, active, constant collaboration is just non-negotiable.
Now, we often focus a lot on functional requirements, what the system does. But Dima notes that ignoring non-functional requirements, that can lead to way bigger architectural problems. What's the strategic cost when those get overlooked?
Oh, it's immense. Architects have to focus just as much on things like performance, scalability, security, reliability. You need a robust, well-rounded solution. Dima's example is classic. A system with great features, but they totally overlooked scalability.
So it works fine until
the user load increases. Then it struggles, performance tanks, user experience dies. It's that classic, it works on my machine, but fails under real pressure.
And for a CIO, that means missed SLAs, unhappy customers.
Customer churn, operations constantly fighting fires. It directly hits the business's ability to grow and even its reputation.
Okay, this next one feels like it should be obvious, but maybe isn't always top of mind.
Yeah.
Overlooking the human element. Dima says architects aren't just designing tech, they need to understand the people using it. Ignoring user experience, feedback, how it impacts users, leads to suboptimal solutions.
Yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in the technical elegance and forget who it's actually for. Dima talks about an architect designing a complex system, but not really considering the end user's tech skills or, their day-to-day workflow.
So the system is technically brilliant, but...
But it's hard to use. So users resist, you need tons of training, productivity actually drops. It's that perfect example. The best tech solution is useless if people can't or won't use it effectively.
A failure to deliver business value no matter how neat the code.
Exactly. Technology serves people, not the other way around.
All right, next up, failure to iterate and adapt. Architecture needs continuous refinement, right? Dima points out architects who rigidly stick to initial designs, ignoring changing needs or new tech. Their solutions get outdated fast.
This rigidity hits the bottom line hard, not just rework costs, but lost opportunities too. Dima gives an example. An architect just won't budge from the initial design. They ignore feedback from development, maybe new market demands pop up.
And the final product just doesn't fit anymore.
Right, doesn't align with the evolved needs. So costs go up, you miss market windows, the outcome is just less than optimal. It's about being agile in your design thinking, not just your process.
If the architecture can't evolve, the business can't either.
Spot on.
Okay, final main point from Dima. Sometimes, in the rush to innovate, architects might ignore established industry best practices or standards. Creativity is good, but he warns that ignoring proven methods can lead to unexpected problems, security issues, compatibility headaches.
Yeah, it's that balancing act again, isn't it? Innovation versus stability. Dima's example is perfect. An architect builds a custom authentication system instead of using standards like OAuth or OpenID Connect.
Seems innovative, maybe, but risky.
Super risky. It likely introduces security holes, makes integration with other systems a nightmare, creates huge maintenance overhead, and it makes it really hard for new people to understand the system. For a CIO, that's increased operational risk. The tech stack becomes this isolated island.
Instead of part of an integrated ecosystem.
Exactly. Sometimes that boring best practice. It's actually the smartest, most secure, and most strategic way forward.
Dima then throws in a bonus point. Not a technical mistake, he says, but more like interpersonal misbehavior. He calls it a special species of colleagues. Agreeable face-to-face affirms everything. But then in email, totally different. Distorting facts, ignoring what you agreed on.
Oh, yeah, those pseudo-colleagues. It's incredibly disheartening and sadly pretty common. Dima doesn't give specifics here, maybe because we all kind of recognize that pattern. It's frustrating.
And for a leader, that kind of behavior isn't just annoying, is it?
Not at all. It kills trust, slows projects down, creates friction, poisons the team environment. It directly impacts velocity and psychological safety. It's something leaders really need to address.
So wrapping this all up, what does this mean for you listening? Whether you lead architects, run product teams, or you're defining a big new system. Dima's post is really a comprehensive roadmap, isn't it, for navigating the tricky landscape architects operate in.
It really is. And I think the big takeaway Dima leaves us with is that mastering solution architecture, it's way beyond just tech skills. It requires this holistic view, understanding the tech, sure, but also the organization, the people. Avoiding these pitfalls, really committing to continuous learning, knowing your platforms, fostering real communication, those are the keys to being exceptional. And, building resilient, innovative organizations.
So maybe a final question for you to think about. Which of these red flags really resonated? Maybe something you've seen or even done. And perhaps more importantly, what's one concrete step, just one thing you could take today to maybe address that risk or help build a stronger architectural culture in your world? That's our deep dive for today. We hope you feel a bit more informed, maybe a bit more prepared to tackle those architectural challenges head on.
Thanks for tuning in to ArchiCraft. This episode was generated using AI from Dmytro Golodiuk's blog at demongo.com/news. If you enjoyed this episode, follow the show on your favorite platform and share it with fellow architects and engineers. Until next time, build smart, architect with intent.